Ever notice how some people just hum like all the time? I'm
Yeah.
talking about that constant, almost subconscious humming.
Right.
Can be a little like, what's that all about?
Right.
Well, buckle up because today's deep dive is going to totally change how we think about humming.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking a deep dive into an article from Cheap ABA, a website all about autism.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it really shifted my perspective.
Interesting.
Get this, for some people, especially those on the autism spectrum, humming, it's not just random noise.
Really?
It's a window into their sensory world.
It's funny how often we just dismiss those little things, those humming sounds, as just, quirks.
Totally.
But this article, it highlights how crucial it is to look deeper.
Absolutely.
Because for many autistic individuals, humming is far from meaningless.
So true.
It actually serves a purpose.
So let's break it down.
Okay.
Why is humming so common among folks on the autism spectrum?
Well, for some, it all boils down to sensory input.
Sensory input.
Imagine being super sensitive to sound. Like everything sounds louder, more intense.
Right.
The world could feel like this constant, overwhelming symphony of noise.
I get it. Yeah.
Humming, especially a steady rhythmic hum, can actually help drown out that chaos.
Like creating their own quiet space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like noise-canceling headphones, but, generated internally.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
They create this controlled, predictable soundscape
Makes sense.
that can be super calming.
And it's not just about external noise, right?
Right.
The article also dives into this idea of humming as emotional regulation.
Absolutely. We all have our ways of self-soothing, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's fidgeting, listening to music, or taking a walk, right?
For sure.
Well, for some individuals with autism, humming, it plays that very role.
It's like their go-to.
It can release tension, bring a sense of calm, even help manage anxiety in overwhelming situations.
Like a built-in coping mechanism.
Exactly.
Kind of like how some people, those ASMR videos, those repetitive sounds. So soothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but then the article mentions something that really surprised me. Communication.
Communication.
Like, are you saying even the type of hum could mean different things?
Right.
I never even thought about it like that.
Well, it's not as common as, the sensory or emotional reasons. Humming can be a way for some folks on the spectrum to communicate,
Oh, wow.
especially when words are tough.
I see.
Picture it as this subtle form of expression.
Okay.
Maybe a way to signal they're feeling overwhelmed or content, like it's their own personal language.
That's incredible. Makes you realize how easily we might misinterpret those signals.
Right.
And there's another layer to this too, right? Repetitive behaviors.
Yeah.
The article mentions that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. It all comes back to that need for predictability,
Yeah.
Many autistic individuals, they find comfort in routines.
Right.
Predictability can be super grounding,
Totally.
and humming, well, it fits right into that.
It's like their own little self-created pattern.
I see.
A predictable, repeatable sound.
Right.
It can offer this sense of control
Makes sense.
in a world that often feels, unpredictable.
This has been so eye-opening, honestly.
Yeah.
We've unpacked the why behind humming, and it's a lot more complex than I ever realized.
For sure.
But how do we actually use this knowledge?
Right.
What does this mean for, parents, teachers, anyone who's interacting with autistic individuals?
Well, it starts with a shift in perspective, right?
Yeah.
Moving away from judgment and towards understanding.
Absolutely.
Humming, in this case, it becomes like a window
A window.
into the sensory and emotional world of some autistic individuals.
I like that.
And that understanding can help us create more supportive environments.
Okay, so that's the key, creating supportive environments.
Yeah.
But what does that look like in practical terms?
Well, the article talks about creating sensory-friendly environments.
Sensory-friendly, right. Now, that might sound a little vague, but it can be broken down into concrete actions.
Like what?
Okay, imagine this. Instead of harsh fluorescent lighting, a room has soft, adjustable lamps.
Okay.
Instead of this bustling, noisy environment, there's a quiet corner someone can go to when they're feeling overwhelmed.
Got it. Yeah.
Even just being mindful of those background noise levels.
Right.
It can make a huge difference.
So it's almost like you're proactively minimizing the need for those coping mechanisms in the first place, right?
Exactly. And another thing the article mentions is offering alternative sensory stimulations.
Okay.
And again, this doesn't have to be anything complicated.
Give me some examples. Yeah.
Think fidget toys,
Right.
For those who find that tactile stimulation calming
Yeah, yeah.
or maybe calming music.
Okay.
It can provide auditory input in a more predictable, enjoyable way.
Right.
Even something as simple as chewing gum can offer some soothing oral sensory input.
It's all about recognizing that, what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
We need to, offer a variety of options, be
Right.
really tuned into individual
You
preferences.
got it. You hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
Which brings us to another important point. Respecting individual differences.
Yeah.
Autism is a spectrum, right?
Right.
It manifests so differently from person to person.
Of course, yeah.
There's no one size fits all.
So it's about observing,
Observing, exactly.
listening to the individual, just like with anything else.
Absolutely.
Because what works for one person, it might be overwhelming or even unhelpful for another.
Exactly. And finally, the article mentions seeking professional help.
Okay.
And I really want to emphasize this shouldn't be seen as a last resort.
Right?
Sometimes getting guidance from an autism specialist, it can be really valuable.
Okay.
It can help create a more tailored approach.
So it's not about, figuring it out all on our own, but recognizing when professional support can be super beneficial.
Exactly. Whether it's connecting with a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, another specialist, it's about finding the right fit
Right, of finding that right fit.
and building a support system
Makes sense.
that really meets the individual's needs.
It's really amazing when you think about it, how much we can learn from something as simple as humming.
It really is.
We often just brush off these little behaviors as, oh, that's just how they are.
Right.
But when we actually take the time to dig a little deeper,
Yeah,
we realize they can be so much more.
absolutely. It's like, that saying, the universe isn't hostile, but it's not exactly friendly either. It's just indifferent.
Hmm.
And I think that applies here too.
Okay, I see what you mean.
It's not about judging a behavior like humming at face value, but
Yeah.
really trying to understand the why
Yeah.
behind it.
It's about empathy, really getting where they're coming from.
That's it. Exactly.
This deep dive has honestly been a game changer for me.
I'm glad to hear that.
I know I'm going to hear humming in a whole new light now, for sure.
That's great.
So if we had to sum it all up, what's the one big takeaway here?
I think it's this. Humming. It's not just random noise. Oftentimes it serves a real purpose,
Ugh.
even if we don't immediately get it.
Yeah, and that understanding can really change how we interact with and support individuals with autism.
Exactly. It all starts with awareness.
Absolutely. So how can our listeners take this newfound knowledge and actually apply it in their lives?
Well, next time you encounter someone humming, don't just tune it out. Really listen. Try to observe the context.
Okay.
Are they in a busy, overwhelming environment?
Right.
Do they seem stressed, anxious?
Interesting.
You might be surprised by the insights you gain just by paying attention.
It's like we've been given this whole new lens to
Yeah.
view the world through, one that helps us see the purpose and the meaning behind behaviors that we might have overlooked before.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it.
And I think the biggest thing to remember here is that every individual with autism is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. What works for one person might not work for another. And that's okay.
It's all about meeting people where they are.
That's what it comes down to.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I'm honestly a little blown away by all of this.
Well, I'm happy to hear that this is what it's all about, sparking curiosity and understanding.
Absolutely. So thank you. This has been such a valuable deep dive.
It was my pleasure. Anytime, the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know, and that's exciting.
I love that. Always more to discover. Well, on that note, that wraps up another deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.